Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Yoda Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans. Tony Jefferson coming out of retirement to play for the Los Angeles Chargers. Correction, he's coming to try out for the Chargers, but you know, and everyone that we've brought in outside of one player, right? And it was Scantling, right? Whatever his name is, the receiver nobody wanted anyway. Outside of him, everyone the Chargers have brought in have pretty much signed, on the spot. And it feels like this is one of those unique situations where the perfect fit exists, the relationships exist, and the Chargers are taking an unconventional route to address a position of sneaky need on this roster. What a world we live in, man. Tony Jefferson? Sorry. As you guys know, I play a lot of Madden Ultimate Team, okay? Guilty as charged. Apologies, okay? This is one of those dudes I was looking for on my squad to lead my defense. The dude was a thumper. The dude was excellent in coverage. And honestly, in looking into this and the reasons why he retired, in the reasons, that he decided to take up a scouting position with the Ravens just last year, why he wants to come back to football. In digging into all of this, it made me realize just how solid of a signing this could be for the Chargers and how much of a genius Joe Hortiz is, his long-term planning. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this, man. Before we do kick off, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $250. Take advantage of this special with Jason Tatum, you new customers into the fold. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, the small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. Lights, camera,
Action.
Tony Jefferson to the Los Angeles Chargers. Man, if you would have said those words 3 years ago, I would have been losing my mind. I do like me some Tony Jefferson, okay? And before some of you guys, I can already hear the comments in my head. But director, we have Alohi Gilbert and Derwin James. Why do we need safety? We need safety, okay? We need safety. For example, okay, to paint a picture for you guys, and this is something I've actually been preaching for several years now in the whole Derwin James era with the Chargers. Backup safety is pretty important for this team. It has been for a while, even dating back to the Gus Bradley days on defense. You need a guy out there. You need a guy who's capable out there. And right now, the Chargers, they got a couple of guys who have untapped potential. JT Woods, AJ Finley, dudes that don't inspire a lot of confidence right now. Maybe they could. Who knows what JT turns into? He's got the size and the speed. Definitely some ball hawking ability there, but largely just unavailable. We don't know what happened to this guy last year. He was straight up gone. After a pretty lackluster rookie season. AJ Finley, again, was he undrafted? One of those guys, when he stepped in, he was pretty serviceable. No, at this point, backup safety to me needs to be treated like a specialty, like a nickel corner or something like that. Somebody that sees the field a lot. That's pretty important to count on in terms of their skill set. The Chargers are going to continue needing that at safety. And every time we think we're okay and we're good, something happens. Derwin gets nicked up. Lohi Gilman's not available. We're seeing guys swap in, swap out. And for the most part, the guys, they play admirably, being put in the position, stepping into the shoes of rather large shoes of a Derwin James. But I would like something a little bit more at the position, just because of how frequently you're going to see that. Now, again, I completely skipped over it. The reason why you want a capable backup safety on the Chargers is because of position versatility. Derwin James is the embodiment of that. He's going to be moving around the defense, in the nickel, in the box, off the edge, whatever, playing up. He's basically the ultimate chess piece for the Chargers defense, and one of the biggest reasons why this unit works at all. When he moves around, though, it leaves a vacancy where he formerly was at high safety. That can be a concern. Now, the traits shared by Finley and JT Woods gained me some confidence. If they can just figure some stuff out, that's very coachable. They should be able to play high safety very well. But I also would like to see some more versatility from the backup guy. We've looked at, backup safeties for several years now for Derwin James that all really share one trait, at least the ones that I'm targeting. It's that they can play in the box as well. That versatility brings a lot of intimidation to an opponent when you don't know what's happening in terms of, all right, they don't have a linebacker out there. We're obviously running, 2 or 3, additional wide receivers or wide receivers that we're trying to make a mismatch out of. Now they got a safety in there. If in the past it was a JT Woods, AJ Finley playing the box, I would be pretty confident in my ability to run him over and audibling to a run game or a running play. You got Tony Jefferson in there, though, things change. And that's why a signing like that is pretty important. And it's one that's been kind of at the top of my list this offseason. I'm looking at backup safety. And to give you guys an idea of the kind of safeties I've been targeting, Justin Simmons, really one of those guys that sticks out to me like, yeah, this is the perfect match. And he still would be my preferred signing for the Chargers if we could land him. And it's been a pretty strong offseason for these safeties. I love me some Eddie Jackson, and he's also a free agent. I love me some Jamal Adams. These guys that can play this hybrid safety linebacker role. It's a perfect fit. However, it feels like from what we're hearing, these backups, as attractive as they are in terms of their fit with the team, are asking for too much money with too much risk added on the side. And what I mean by that is, I don't know why in the world the Broncos cut Justin Simmons. Doesn't make a lick of sense to me, but they did. That means there's a flag out there somewhere. Maybe it was a financial motivated move. Maybe it was not. Who knows? There's some risk there. Do I want to pay premium money for a player that is a bit older, that might have some red flags? I don't know if I'm doing that if I'm Joe Hortiz. Same can be said about Jamal Adams, about Eddie Jackson. So what does Joe do instead? Well, he goes to an unconventional method in which he grabs that talent anyway, but on a budget. And he knows what the freak he's doing, man. Joe Hortiz, he's the kind of guy, the kind of talent, the kind of mind that's so good at bamboozling people. Me and the fans included, right? I'm a fan. I have a certain way of thinking that I would like the team to get better in, a certain method in which they can build the team that satisfies me as an investor of the team, being one of the fans, right? And he does things unconventionally that at first on the surface I'm like, bruh, we were expecting a little more. We're expecting something different. Kind of reminds me, you guys remember the movie Draft Day, right? And how the GM of the Browns, he's all like, he's got his heart set on certain things. He's just expecting the coach and the GM to make certain moves because he's this big bad in charge. Kind of reminds a lot of people of Jerry Jones, right? I sometimes feel that way as a fan. It's just like, it's so obvious. The Chargers are picking up Malik Neighbors. It's so obvious that we're signing this free agent. It's so obvious, so obvious, so obvious. Then when the team zigs, and instead we see a Joe Alt, right? Me as a fan, I'm like, come on. He was right there. Everyone says he was right there. Imagine him to the Chargers, the potential. We make a million videos, blah, 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 blah. But instead, what I'm left with is some time to think about it and distancing myself from my bias and understanding exactly what the strategy was. And days later, sometimes weeks later, I find myself tremendously optimistic about what Joe Hortiz has accomplished, and maybe more so impressed by his foresight in his decision making. Because me as a blind fan, on the front line, I would have taken Malik Neighbors just like that. No thoughts necessary. And I think a lot of us would have done that. Instead, Joe Alt ends up being the pick, and with some time put in between us and that pick and that decision, it becomes much more obvious why he did it, why the upside is probably much higher with Joe Alt, the vision of the team build. So much involved. And again, we're starting to see a lot of this kind of come to fruition as the complete vision of Joe Hortiz comes to shape itself. Okay? My point here being is that he knows what he's doing. And even if in the moment I disagree, so far his track record's pretty perfect to me. After some time, I'm like, holy crap, that was the right move all along. He's playing a long con out here. Now, in my last video, we talked about Alex Leatherwood, right? And the signing there and why it happened. And again, just like I was saying, on the surface, I was like, bro, why are we bringing in Alex? We know who this guy is. Former first-round pick of the Raiders, laughably terrible, journeyman through the league, widely considered a bust. Why are we doing this? And after a little bit of time to think about it, I was like, you know what? I'm starting to see the vision here a little bit. The vision for Joe Hortiz is something we're not used to seeing. We're not used to this. Because all these things are depth signings. We see Alex Leatherwood and you think to yourself, man, what are we doing? You know, but he's not competing for starting tackle. He's not competing for maybe even starting guard. It might be just a straight up depth ad. And in that video, I told you, I don't think we're done doing that, man. I think the Chargers, their new unconventional way of adding depth, I think it's going to continue. And in my mind, it was via the June 1st or the post-June 1st cuts sort of situation that should be going on here soon. You're going to see veterans being cut because their positions have been filled with, high potential rookies. Money no longer makes sense. You're going to see opportunities to sign guys that fit the comp pick formula on a cheap deal. But instead, we dig into a well that's a little bit different. Veteran signings for the Chargers in years past, what we're used to, are nobodies, are no names. We got to go digging into the depths of PFF hell to find any sort of statistic to support our hype on any guys added to the team in the Tom Telesco era. Not anymore. I know who Alex Leatherwood is. I know who Tony Jefferson is. Even some of these other guys, I know who Christian Fulton is. Of course, we know who Denzel Perryman is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Seen a lot of that stuff. It's cool. It's cool to see the team being built this way. Money aside, even, which is very team-friendly, mind you, these are solid moves, and this would be a very solid move. Now, why is that? Well, let's skip over to the obvious, okay? Tony Jefferson, the player, and why I'm excited. You guys can get excited if you want. Director, it's just a backup. But director, this and that. I'm excited. I like Tony Jefferson a lot, especially my days playing Madden. This was a dude. Back then, man. This was a dude. Let's jump right into the PFF grades over here. Now, mind you, he hasn't played since 2023. He suffered an injury in that season. He did not play 2022. He did not play 2023 because of an injury. Okay, but in his last season in 2022, a coverage grade of 77, which is pretty solid. Run defense, pass rush could use a little bit of work, but, his stats are kind of up and down depending on the season, depending on the opponent. Kind of breaking down his last season in 2022 per game, you kind of get a good idea of what he was just before he went down with injury. Looks like he went down in, week 5, returned to week 13, played out the rest of the season before sitting out 2023. Look at some of these grades, man. It's actually not too bad. In particular, his tackling grade outside of 2 games was absolutely fantastic. That is something you definitely need at safety. The Chargers, who want to become a more physical, efficient team, you want a nice tackler at safety. I don't know if I could even sniff these numbers in looking at JT Woods and AJ Finley. Those guys have some skills and some strengths in other areas, but I wouldn't say tackling is one of them. In this game versus Washington, he went absolutely bananas. Coverage grade of 91.4. That's not too bad. Pass rush in the mid-50s to low 60s is also pretty impressive. I like that. I don't know, man. Dude's looked pretty great. And then we take a look at his career grades and why I, as a Madden player, liked adding him. My biggest reason I liked adding him, which you're not going to find on here, in Madden, it's a stat called hit power. That's something I like to do with my safeties, man. Lay the boomstick every once in a while. Get a fumble or two from a safety who's also out there, covering his butt off. That's the kind of players you were looking for back in the day. And he was definitely pretty good at that. Again, high tackling grades across the board here. His last couple of seasons, we'll kind of highlight these, right, to kind of give us an idea of who he is now. Look, man, he's still a more than capable coverage guy, which we're definitely going to need. He's a more than capable tackler, right? Run defense, you would hope to see a little bit better. That's kind of what he was known for back in the day. I mean, my God, look, 2016 of a 90.9. He might get back to it. Maybe a lot of this has to do with the injury, right? But outside of that, man, dude could cover his butt off. Dude was a very efficient tackler. And these are coming down the ideas that he's our backup safety. I could certainly take worse. Or you could certainly imagine worse the Chargers signing in years past. Tony Jefferson, actually, not that bad. Not that bad. Now, if he was so great, director, then why wasn't he playing last? Why? I went over it a little bit already. Injury cut his career short a couple of different times, right? I think in 2019, he suffered his first major injury. I think it was a torn ACL. And then he hurt his foot, I believe, when he played with the Giants back in 2020. And it feels like, honestly, he was one of those dudes up until that point with the Giants. It felt like he was going to be one of those dudes that could play into his mid-30s-ish, right? The little honey badger effect, and be a pretty, serviceable guy. Honestly, a lot of people still viewed him as a starter, even in his early 30s playing with the Giants. Like, that was a big signing for him. People were excited. And, yeah, the injury is concerning. It's something that the Chargers and its fans need to take into consideration. But it doesn't have the same effect as it used to. I feel like injuries nowadays, especially when you take some time off, have chances to be put behind you. Even at this point of the career, I feel like Tony Jefferson has as good a shot as anybody to bounce back. So here's what happened, man. He gets injured. Giants. He decides to retire. And what he does after that was kind of remarkable. He decided he didn't want to be away from the game of football, so he went and got a gig scouting for the Ravens. I think this is where the biggest relationship between him and Joe Hortiz was born, right? Of course, Hortiz, director of player personnel, back with the Ravens for so many years. Now he works closely with the scouts. All of a sudden, you got this stud in Tony Jefferson, putting in the work. Going out there, staying involved. Well, according to this story here by MLF Football, during the season last year, I couldn't sleep sometimes because I wanted to come back so bad. Now I'm here and ready to rock and roll. But the biggest thing that gets me excited is the first part of that. Had a year off. It has my body feeling amazing. All the while, I kept myself heavily attached to the game. Yep. So that to me tells me, okay, you know what? Every once in a while, this situation works out. He got a year off. His body's healed up. A lot of guys, call it quits. Say, I had a good career. We're now starting our new career in scouting. We're with a good program like the Ravens. Let's go. Then something crazy happens in which the Chargers land one of the biggest personalities, one of the biggest persons, of the Ravens of the last several decades. And he wants, you to come try out for the Chargers. At the same time, you're considering a comeback out of retirement. It all really just kind of fits like a glove. And it's the foundation of a really, really nice Twilight Year veteran comeback story that we're all looking for. Now, as we set the table for why he's coming back, where he was, this is a great fit. We already talked about why we need backup safety. Mainly, we need a guy to mix and match in with Derwin James. He's a big part of this team. And this is the perfect kind of guy. He's older, but a perfect fit. If he can bring a semblance of what he was in his last two seasons with the Giants, and was it still the Ravens the year before that? Like, yeah, that will do. That will definitely do. He's still strong. He's physical. A big part of what Jesse Minter wants on this defense is physicality. The backup position is often overlooked. Not in this system, I tell you. I know that Tony Jefferson is looking for opportunities to play if coming out of retirement. Most teams would just consider him a backup safety. But in this particular system, that's going to see some reps. Jefferson is going to get his shot at delivering some licks out there. Not to mention what he offers in terms of his veteran leadership. The Chargers overnight just kind of lost everybody, right? They got Thanos snapped if they were over 30. It was kind of ridiculous. We do need some guys out there to help these young dogs up. You know what I mean? And I feel like that is a big element that he's going to bring, not just for the Chargers in terms of experience, but also exposure to the Ravens system. There's a lot going on in terms of culture rebuild, a lot going on and how things are going to be, implemented and rolled out and yada, 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 yada. He has so much time with the Ravens and relationship foundations with Joe Hortiz. It's a nice presence to have out there. He seems like a football dude. And he's got big upside in coverage. Like I mentioned, if there was one thing that stuck out from his past couple of seasons with the Giants and the Ravens, I think it was San Fran too, right? Yeah. It's that coverage grade. That's nice. That's nice. Play him in the box. Have him cover in the slot. Do some work. Do some work out there. And I think I feel a lot better about him out there than I do some of the other alternatives. The last thing I will say, in terms of the biggest reason I think this is going to happen. Sometimes I'm coming out here like, hey, the Chargers are working out this guy, or we're looking at that guy, or there's connections here and there, and we speculate. I'm going to go ahead and say, to me at least, this feels like almost a done deal. I could be wrong, but there's so many different things that you have to consider in terms of a good relationship, a good fit. But probably the biggest one to me, the dude is just a massive Chargers fan. I gotta imagine he's been waiting for his shot to sport the powder blue and the lightning bolts for a while, man, because he grew up. This is a California kid right here, man. Went to high school in Chula Vista. He's been following the Chargers as long as a lot of us have. He grew up. He watched Rivers. He watched Gates. He watched LT. The dude was very much so a Chargers kid, right? And to see him get the opportunity to come out of retirement with a guy that he knows from his previous system on a team he grew up watching, I'm sure it's very exciting for him. Okay, we've done this a lot, actually. We've seen a lot of players that kind of grew up with that Chargers background, that Chargers fandom, coming into the fold. I'm sure it's a dream scenario now, with Jim Harbaugh leading the charge out here. We'll close the video out with a couple of points right here, man. And the reason why this is such a good signing, in my opinion, we went over it a little bit, but this, to me, the Chargers have become what I'm going to label. There's a lot of things you can label them, right? Ravens West, Michigan West, a whole bunch of stuff, right? I think Last Chance U has to be lumped in there somewhere all of a sudden, right? We got a lot of players coming in here, and it's part of the Joe Hortiz strategy that I appreciate, because for the most part, Christian Fulton, I highlighted him because he is going to be more involved more than likely, but it's not guaranteed. A lot of these guys, you're signing into depth situations and hoping for the best, and there's a good shot that you're going to see one of these guys pop, including guys like Christian Fulton, Last Chance Youth. All these dudes were at a point in their career where maybe they're not going to see a lot of work. Christian Fulton, second round pick, right? I kept thinking he was a first. Turns out he's a second round pick, but a lot of upside there, man. Titans fans are excited about his potential. He fell off pretty good. Injuries, lack of production, et cetera, et cetera. He fell off. He's coming to the Chargers for his second shot now with Jesse Minter. Denzel Perryman, older but not obsolete, right? He's coming. He brings the boomstick like we were talking about. He's getting a shot with the Chargers. The duo of running backs from the Ravens, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. Both of these guys, huge talent but bigger injuries, right? They're getting second chances with the Chargers. Hayden Hurst, former first-round pick, now a journeyman of the NFL. He's getting a second chance with the Chargers, and in a really good situation, too. Ben Mason, the scrapped fullback, trying to compete for reps against Patrick Ricard. That wasn't going to happen. He's getting a second chance with the Chargers. You can even say guys like Brendan Rice, 7th-round pick. Everyone passed on the guy. He's getting a chance with the Chargers. Now you get to add Tony Jefferson's name to that list. I like it, man. Adding the possibility of retired players to the Chargers because of the situation that it provides is honestly pretty exciting. Joe is a genius. Signings that pretty much all follow the comp pick formula. I don't know what it is. Like, he was cut from the Giants, right? He's been retired. I have to imagine that follows the comp pick formula. Guys that we've been signing so far have really been following closely the comp pick formula, which gives us extra picks, if you guys are unaware, in future drafts. I think the Chargers already have quite a few for next year, which is nuts. We're targeting big talent that's been buried by recent shortcomings via injury, via lack of production, whatever. We got a lot of guys on the roster all of a sudden that have a chance to come back. And I got to tell you, man, it feels like a couple of them are. If I had to highlight a couple of these dudes that are primed for a really nice comeback, I think Hayden Hurst is in a really good position. I think J.K. Dobbins is in a really good position. And honestly, Tony Jefferson, maybe less of a comeback and more of a resurrection for his twilight seasons. He could probably play another 2 years, maybe 3. He's got a good shot, too, because of the situation the Chargers offer. But the biggest reason I chose this photo in particular is because Joe is betting on himself. And not just himself, but the Chargers. He knows what he has out there. We got some of the best coaching in the NFL. And whether people understand that, realize that or not, because, yeah, he hasn't played a down of NFL football with the Chargers as a head coach yet. We don't know what that's going to translate to. There's no guarantees in anything, but Joe knows. And he's betting hard on it. Because bringing these guys in for a second shot, bringing these guys in that have things that need to be fixed but are coachable, he knows that under his team, under his situation that he's providing, these guys have as good a chance as anybody to bounce back. Not to mention Ben Herbert is going to help some guys like J.K. Dobbins try and put those injuries behind him. It's cool. It's really cool. And it's the kind of thinking, that kind of mentality that I believe that is going to lead this Chargers team to the long con victory none of us saw coming. Even as fans with front row seats, watching these decisions being made, seeing the Joe Waltz instead of the Malik Neighbors, all of this at some point goes over your head until it works. And it feels like we're heading for a season where it works. And these moves are starting to make sense. And the plot twist unveils itself, and we're all impressed with everything we're seeing. So you guys in the comment section below, let me know. By the time you see this video, he may have already signed. But you let me know if you guys would welcome Tony Jefferson onto the squad. I certainly would. I think it'd be an awesome depth signing, but more so represents how this team wants to build going forward, and leaving all options on the table in a very intelligent way to help some talent bounce back into the NFL in a situation where they otherwise maybe never see opportunities like this again. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up, stay frosty, and hey, man, couldn't end the video without saying big ups to you guys out here. We just hit 50,000 subscribers yesterday while live during our Sim Sundays. Thank you guys so much for helping me get this far. Here's to the next 50K. We're chasing the silver plaque now, baby. Let's go.